Welcome back, everybody. And I thought I'd take a kind of a big picture look at just sports today. And I want to talk about NHL and the NHLPA first. Because honestly, the whole sporting world right now is all kind of on hold, and we understand that. And I want to talk about what's come out with the NHL. Through Larry Brooks, and then Pierre LeBrun backs him up on this. The idea that there's a return to play committee with the NHL and the NHLPA working together on this. The NHL is represented by Bettman, Daly, Campbell, and Petros. And on the NHLPA side, you got Fear, you've got Schneider, Tavares, McDavid, JVR, Scheifele, and Hainsey. So this is your committee that's going to get together on the phone. Apparently, these guys are talking regularly, and there's daily comments or daily contacts between the league and the union in regards to what's going on and what's happening. And there are medical advisors on calls as needed as well. So I'm guessing anytime they're talking about a restart and how a restart would work, there are medical advisors on those calls. One thing I agree with Larry Brooks on, the NHL has to get this right. The absolute worst case scenario would be having to shut the league down a second time. So if they're going to come back, it's going to be with the idea of it has to be in the safest manner possible. Now, phase one, they're still in, which is self-isolation. This was phase one they went into a month and a half ago. Players have been in self-isolation. Then it's not going to change. Phase two, small on-ice workouts, skating were allowed. And this is what they're looking at for potentially May 15th. Where certain municipalities where they're going to be allowed to have, players on the ice and skating, they'll get that started. Because you have to have the guys on the ice and skating, you have to have them in shape if you're even going to think about it. And honestly, for these athletes who are admittedly getting kind of bored being at home, it might make them feel better being out on the ice and skating and feeling like they're doing something. Now, interestingly enough, Toronto and Columbus are apparently lead candidates, according to, again, Larry Brooks. I mean, we've heard other cities as well. But one thing he brings up, and he's right, Canadian dollar's really low. Now, the NHL's losing a lot of money. How do you save money? Hold it in Canada. Canadian dollar is down to about 70 cents US right now, and it's going to drop further. Speculation is it could go as low as 60 cents US, which is absolutely just all of this is bad for the National Hockey League. The National Hockey League makes a lot of its money in Canada. We as fans in Canada are now facing a dollar which could be 25% lower when we're able to go, if we're able to go, than it was before. And that's 25% less revenue. And for those who buy jerseys in Canada, that price is going to skyrocket. When the Canadian dollar drops, the price of everything goes way up. So we're looking at, and obviously I'm talking from a hockey perspective, but in terms of buying your goods and stuff, if it's imported, the price is going to go up. And even if it's local, the price could go up because almost everything in the economic food chain is reliant on something foreign, that the price of that could go up with a lower Canadian dollar. So on the NHL side of it, if you're going to hold the games in Canada, you save some money. So that would be a reason to say, yeah, we can hold them in Toronto or Vancouver or Edmonton because we can save money, save our costs. Now, again, there is no perfect way of doing this, but the CBA expires in 2021. Now, just imagine a situation where, let's just say there's no hockey this year and there's no hockey next year. And then you got to work out a collective bargaining agreement. Good luck. Oh, and then you've got an expansion team coming in. How does that work? No idea. How do you figure out any of this? How do you figure out salary caps amidst what we're going through? It's a nightmare. So I've said this before, I'll say it again. The smartest thing the NHL and the NHLPA can do while they're having all these discussions, iron out a new collective bargaining agreement. Extend this one 3 years. Just have the NHL and the NHLPA say we're going to kick that can down the road 3 years. We're not going to worry about an expiring collective bargaining agreement during this period. Now, I wanted to present other sports in this as well because people are always like, no, you're talking about hockey. Okay, well, we're going to expand this to other sports then. NBA practice facilities are likely opening, where allowed, on May 1st. So it looks like they want to get basketball players back onto the court and get them ready to go for a potential summer basketball situation for them, where they'll play out the rest of the regular season, or maybe they just jump into the playoffs. It's the same discussion the NBA is having as the NHL. There's no difference between the two, other than for the NBA, since you don't have to worry about ice and skating, I would think it's easier I mean, these guys could be at home practicing in their driveway, and they could be, keeping themselves in shape that way. Hockey really, you can get inline skates. The Hughes brothers were talking about inline skates and that breaking up some of their boredom, but they're bored, and that the inline skates aren't exactly the same as skating on the ice. So, Major League Baseball, they're admitting that empty arenas could be a thing until 2023. So when I keep seeing people say, just start in September, what? You think everything's going to be better in September? This isn't going away in September. This isn't going away, likely not going away in 2021. This could be around until 2023. And these are all worst case scenarios. Now, there are those who want to, embrace the worst case scenarios. I'm throwing it up there just as an example of why I also don't subscribe to the short-sighted, just come back in September, because something else that comes back in September, normally that's when you start seeing colds and flus happening, is around September and October. So, yeah, that's probably not a best plan either. There isn't really a best plan. This is why they're all having all these meetings and they're discussing it. Now, there are issues with Major League Baseball too. Their collective bargaining agreement expires next year as well, December 1st, 2021. So Major League Baseball, where there's some mistrust between players and owners, was already looking like they might be headed towards a lockout. Could very well have seen a lockout in Major League Baseball for the 2022 season, because there's been some rumblings of distrust and mistrust going on between the union and ownership. And of course, there's some big contracts out there, but players don't like how long guys are sitting, and there's collusion talk as well. So baseball, this is happening at a worse time for them as well. And so this could really be an absolute, total, complete disaster. And they're talking about having games in 1 or 2 cities and trying to find a way to make it work. And there's already players coming out and going, I'm not doing that. So there's a lot of discussions yet to be had. And yeah, various European soccer leagues, for those in Europe, football, they're trying and may return in May. So Bundesliga's talking about it. There are other leagues talking about it as well. It looks like Bundesliga probably comes back first. And again, it'll be empty arenas in Europe. And leagues are losing money in this process. But they're trying to pay, many of these teams and all of these leagues are trying to pay their staffs throughout. And they're taking pay cuts as CEOs and they're doing their best. But at some point, you either get out there and start playing sports again, or right. So that's where we're at. The CFL is discussing suspension of the season. There's 2 problems. 1, the CFL could completely die. The CFL right now is a league that really, it feels like, is on life support every year. It feels like it's making some money, but not a lot. Players in the CFL don't make a ton of money. So if you lose an entire season, can the league financially survive? Is a question that I think is legit. I think it's legit to ask that question. And the other problem is the CFL has a provision in their collective bargaining agreement that in the case of a season being canceled, every player in the league becomes a free agent. They don't specify how. And so when the union brings this up, the CFL goes, oh, well, that was if we were suspending operations or the league was going under. That's not for what we're dealing with here. That's totally different. And the union's going, but you didn't write that in here. So we're all free agents, right? So that could be a problem where every single player in the Canadian Football League becomes a free agent. Ta-da! The CFL has spent decades not planning things very well, and this is just another example. It's this, to me, this is dumber than the like, why is that even in there? Anyways. Some lawyer at some point said, well, you got to put something in there. Well, it'll never happen. So we'll just put that in there. It'll never happen. I think we've learned over the last couple of months, don't ever say it'll never happen, because those never happen things are happening. So is everybody in the CFL an unrestricted free agent or what? Right? So if they cancel the season, if they decide they're not going to have one, and then there's the financial ramifications of that, where without a season, the CFL could be in just as much trouble as the XFL was south of the border in losing their season. Pretty close. I mean, it's obviously there's more stability, but how much? How many teams would go under? And if you have, let's say, three out of that small league, 3 teams out of that small league go under, do you even have a league at that point? And then how do you build it back up after? And the U.S. Open tennis tournament, it'll be decided in June whether or not they're holding it, and tennis is on hold. I was looking for things on NASCAR too. I know there's been talk of NASCAR coming back next month. I couldn't find anything concrete on NASCAR coming back next month, other than that's their hope and their aim. I think there's a way to do it with racing where I think it could work, but again, all of the sports world is on hold, and you've got all of these individuals and athletes who are, reliant on it coming back, and at some point, somebody's going to take that dive and come back, because there are leagues that are going to be smaller. There are leagues that are going to be making a lot less money, and I understand the opinion of, hey, that's not important right now. There are a lot of people who sports it's important for, and just for the mental break that it gives some of us to be able to sit down and watch sports for a few hours, it can be nice. Watching a really good NASCAR race can be absolutely fantastic. Just throwing that out there. Sometimes on a Sunday afternoon, just sitting there and watching guys turn left for 3 hours can be the most relaxing thing you do all day. And it can just be great. And so if NASCAR figures out a way to come back, I will watch. I'll do live streams on the Entertainment Guy watching NASCAR. Because I do enjoy it. I do. I enjoy the racing. I enjoy the chess match it is, that when you're seeing guys go into the pit, and the pit crew makes a small adjustment to the car, and so it goes from losing half a second every lap to gaining half a second, or even better, when they make an adjustment and they start losing time and they start falling back in the field, and you can see the panic from the driver and from the crew, like, oh crap, we over adjusted the car. I love that stuff, and there's ways to bring that back safely. The sporting world in general is all on hold. No matter where you look online, it's all on hold. And I will be here to report on it when it comes back. And so I wanted to talk about all these other leagues, because I know I focus on the NHL because this is a hockey channel. But when everybody's talking about it, I can't believe how selfish Gary Bettman is for thinking about playing. There is no league in the world that's not showing some amount of, we hope to be able to return, and giving a date. Now, there are some that have scrapped this year and said we'll return next season. In many cases, those may be leagues that don't feel it's financially feasible to finish out the season. That's why the AHL, the ECHL, these smaller hockey leagues didn't do it. The other thing I want to say as well is, I understand that for people that look at this and say, well, they're all millionaires. They're all millionaires, they make tons and tons of money, and why do I care? Because there are players in the minor leagues that feed these leagues that are not millionaires, that are doing it for the love of the game, and that are working really, really hard every day. And there are people who work for these teams that are out of work. There are people who work in the gig industry that are completely out of work. And there are a lot of people who right now are out of work from some of these that may not qualify for any government help, depending on where they are and depending on their status and how much money they make. So they may have no income whatsoever right now. So yes, it is easy to focus on the billionaires and the millionaires and go, I don't care. But there are a lot of other people who do, who are not millionaires or billionaires. And it's really short-sighted when people just say, well, I don't care. John Tavares is going to make his millions and millions of dollars anyways. I don't care. Right. But there are a lot of other people on the bottom who do. And I think that's part of the conversation as well that sometimes gets lost. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happen upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for all your support during this time. Again, stay home if you can. Stay safe when you can or when you can't. And thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.